The station's docking bay smelled like copper and fear. Commander Lydia Grant kept her hand near her sidearm as she walked down the ramp, boots echoing against metal. 3 of her crew flanked her, weapons lowered but ready. Across the enormous chamber, Kavresh soldiers stood in formation, their segmented armor gleaming under harsh lights. Between them, suspended in an energy cage, hung something that made Lydia's breath catch. Not human, not even close. The creature was massive, easily 9 feet tall even in its restraints. Fur the color of midnight covered powerful limbs that ended in claws designed for tearing. Its face was lupin, but disturbingly intelligent. Golden eyes tracking her approach with an awareness that sent ice down her spine. Blood matted its fur in several places. Fresh wounds. "Commander Grant," the Kavresh officer called out, his translator rendering his hissing speech into cold English. "You bring our prisoners?" Leah gestured behind her. 2 Kavresh soldiers captured during a border skirmish 3 months ago stumbled forward in mag restraints. As agreed. Now release Lieutenant Chen and her team. The Kavresh officer made a sound that might have been laughter. There has been a change in terms. Every instinct Lydia had honed over 15 years of service screamed danger. Her crew tensed. She kept her voice level. "Explain. The humans will remain our guests, permanently, as will you." The officer's mandibles clicked together. "Your ship will be seized. Earth's expansion into this sector ends today." Lydia's mind raced. 40 soldiers against 4. No backup for 3 days. Her hand drifted closer to her weapon. And the prisoner in the cage? That wasn't part of our intelligence. The Vornak? The officer glanced at the caged creature with obvious contempt. "A gift. We execute it after we execute you. Earth's diplomats and the last Vornak prince. A fine day's work. Prince. Last." The words hit Lydia like hammer blows. She'd heard stories about the Vornak. Every spacer had. Apex predators from the outer reaches, supposedly extinct for a decade after the Kavresh conquered their worlds. But this one was alive, imprisoned, bleeding, looking right at her. Those golden eyes held something Lydia recognized. Not animal rage. Calculation. The creature was listening, understanding every word through its own translator implant, waiting. "Lieutenant Marcus," Lydia said quietly, "when I move, you move." "Commander," Marcus whispered back, "trust me." The Kavresh officer raised one clawed hand. His soldiers lifted their weapons. "Enough talk. Seize them." Lydia drew her plasma pistol in one fluid motion and fired. Not at the soldiers. At the energy cage's control panel 15 feet away. The bolt struck dead center. Sparks erupted. The cage flickered and died. The Vornak prince dropped to the floor in a crouch. For one frozen heartbeat, nothing happened. Then Kael moved. He crossed the distance to the nearest Kavresh soldier in a blur of dark fur and flashing claws. The soldier's scream cut off wetly. Chaos erupted. Plasma bolts filled the air. Lydia dove behind a cargo container, her crew scattering for cover. Return fire punched through metal around her. "Covering fire!" she shouted. Marcus and the others opened up, keeping the Kavresh pinned while Lydia tracked the Vornak's rampage through the bay. He fought like a nightmare given form. 3 soldiers down. 5. Despite his wounds, despite obvious weakness from captivity, Kael tore through their ranks with terrifying efficiency. A Kavresh flanked her position. Lydia shot him twice, center mass. His armor cracked. He fell. "To the ship!" she screamed. "Everyone back to the ship!" Kael's head snapped toward her voice. Blood dripped from his muzzle. For a horrible moment, Lydia thought she'd just freed something that would kill them all. Then the Vornak prince nodded once and bounded toward her position, using cargo containers as cover. He slid to a stop beside her, breathing hard. Up close, he was even more imposing. "Why?" His voice was deep, roughened by disuse, the translator barely keeping up with his growling speech. "Talk later. Run now." Lydia fired 3 more shots toward the regrouping Kavresh forces. "Can you make it to my ship? Can you? Watch me." They ran. Lydia's crew laid down suppressing fire as she and Kael sprinted across open ground. Plasma bolts seared the air. One caught Marcus in the shoulder. He stumbled but kept moving. The ship's ramp was 30 feet away. 20. 10. Kael suddenly grabbed Lydia and threw her forward. She hit the ramp hard, rolling. Behind her, a massive explosion rocked the bay where she'd been standing. The Vornak had somehow sensed the incoming rocket. Saved her life. "Inside!" Lydia shouted. Kael leaped up the ramp. Marcus and the others scrambled aboard. The bay doors were already sealing as Lydia hit the cockpit. "Johnson, get us out of here now!" Her pilot's hands flew over controls. "Docking clamps are locked. Override them. Working on it." The ship shuddered. Warning lights flashed. Through the viewport, Lydia saw Kavresh reinforcements pouring into the bay. They had maybe seconds. "Clamps released!" Johnson yelled. "Punch it!" The ship lurched forward, engines screaming. They burst through the station's magnetic field, into open space. Alarms blared. Lydia checked her scopes and cursed. 6 Kavresh fighters were already in pursuit, with more launching every second. "Evasive maneuvers," she ordered. "Get us to jump distance." The ship jinked hard left. Plasma fire streaked past. Johnson was good, but they were badly outnumbered. Lydia activated the intercom. "All hands, brace for combat. Seal any hull breaches and prepare for jump." A shadow fell across her station. She looked up into Kael's golden eyes. The Vornak prince stood in the cockpit doorway. One massive hand braced against the frame. Blood still matted his fur. "You freed me," he said. "Why? Because they were going to kill you. And me. And my crew." Lydia's fingers danced across tactical displays. "'Cause I don't like slavers or executioners. Because it seemed like the right thing to do. Humans are not known for doing right things. Then you've met the wrong humans." The ship rocked. A direct hit to aft shields. "Shields at 60%, Johnson reported. Kael moved closer, studying the tactical display with unsettling focus. The lead fighter. Its pilot is Kavresh Elite. He will anticipate standard evasion patterns. Got a better idea? Yes. Kael pointed at the display with one claw. There. Dive toward the station's gravity well. He will expect you to climb away. When he follows, loop behind his formation and accelerate through their spread. They will not risk firing on each other. Lydia stared at him. It was insane. It was also brilliant. Johnson, you heard him. Execute. Her pilot hesitated only a moment. Aye, Commander. The ship dove. Lydia's stomach lurched as artificial gravity struggled to compensate. The Kavresh fighters followed exactly as Kael predicted, tightening formation to pursue. Johnson pulled up hard, looped around, and punched the engines. They shot through the gap in the enemy formation so fast Lydia's teeth rattled. "Jump distance in 30 seconds, Johnson said, voice tight with concentration. The Kavresh fighters scrambled to reorient. Too slow. The jump drive spooled up with a rising whine. Space twisted. Stars stretched into lines. They jumped. Silence filled the cockpit. Lydia let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. They'd made it. Barely. She turned to Kael. The Vornak prince had slumped against the bulkhead, his wounds finally taking their toll. Blood pooled beneath him. "Medical bay," Lydia snapped. "Now. Johnson, maintain course for Sector 7. And send an encrypted message to Fleet Command. Tell them we just started a war." Kael's eyes met hers one more time before they closed. "You saved the last Vornak," he whispered. "The Kavresh will never stop hunting you." "Good," Lydia said grimly. "I'm counting on it." The medical bay hummed with activity as Lydia worked to stabilize Kael. Her training included field medicine, but she'd never treated anything like a Vornak before. His biology was surprisingly similar to Earth mammals, similar enough that the auto-suture worked on his larger wounds. "His vitals are stabilizing," Marcus said from the monitoring station. The lieutenant's own shoulder was bandaged, but he'd refused to rest. Whatever they did to him, it was extensive. Malnutrition, multiple broken bones that healed wrong, chemical burns. Lydia's jaw tightened. She'd seen torture before. This was systematic, prolonged. They were studying him, breaking him down. Why keep him alive at all? That's what I intend to find out. Kael's eyes opened. They focused on Lydia with sharp awareness despite his condition. You are still here. Where else would I be? Most who free prisoners do not stay to care for them. He tried to sit up. Lydia pushed him back down with surprising firmness. Most people aren't me. Stay still. You've lost a lot of blood. I heal quickly. Not quickly enough. Rest. For a moment she thought he'd argue. Instead, something that might have been respect flickered in his gaze. What is your name, human commander? Lydia Grant. Yours? Kael, 3rd prince of the Vornak clans, last of the royal bloodline. His voice carried bitter weight. Or so the Kavresh believe. Lydia pulled up a chair. Tell me, why should I trust you? Because I just burned every bridge I have to save your life. Because the Kavresh Empire will hunt both of us now. And because if what I suspect is true, we need each other. Kael studied her for a long moment. Then he began to speak. The story came in fragments. 10 years ago, the Kavresh invaded Vornak space. They came with overwhelming force, and a weapon the Vornak had never seen. Something that disrupted their natural abilities, made them weak, vulnerable. Within months, the Vornak worlds fell. The Empire began systematic enslavement, breeding programs. The strongest Vornak were broken and used as shock troops. The rest were worked to death in mines and factories. Kael's family led the resistance. For 3 years, they fought. Then the Kavresh found their base, slaughtered everyone. Kael survived only because he was on a raid when it happened. He spent the next 7 years as a captive, studied, tortured, paraded as proof that the mighty Vornak were conquered. They wanted me to despair, Kael said quietly, to believe my people were gone, but I knew better. Lydia leaned forward. What do you mean? My mother, before she died, she sent a message, encrypted, hidden in old Vornak navigation beacons. She told me she'd activated the deep sanctuaries, emergency protocols from our ancient wars. Thousands of Vornak in stasis, waiting for the day we could rise again. His eyes burned with sudden intensity, waiting for their prince to wake them. The implications hit Lydia like a shockwave. You know where these sanctuaries are?
Yes.
And the Kavresh. They suspect, but they do not know. That is why they kept me alive, hoping I would break. Reveal the locations. Kael's claws dug into the medical bed. I never did. Lydia's mind raced through possibilities. A hidden Vornak army, thousands strong. If they could be awakened, armed, organized, the entire balance of power in this sector would shift overnight. The Kavresh Empire had conquered a dozen species through overwhelming force and terror, but they'd never faced a unified Vornak military led by someone who knew their tactics. How far to the nearest sanctuary? She asked. 3 days. If we are not intercepted, we'll be intercepted. The Kavresh will throw everything they have at us. I know. Kael met her eyes. Why do this, Lydia Grant? Your people are not at war with the Empire. You could have left me in that cage. Completed your mission. My mission was supposed to be a prisoner exchange. Instead, I found a slaver state executing prisoners and planning to massacre diplomatic envoys. Lydia stood, pacing. Earth has a policy. We don't negotiate with slavers. We sure as hell don't let them get away with murdering our people. Earth is one world. The Kavresh control 50 systems. Then we'll need an edge. Lydia turned back to him. You said your people have been in stasis for 7 years. They'll need time to recover, training, equipment, what we call force multiplication. And you can provide this? Humanity's been fighting wars since before we had space travel. We've gotten pretty good at it. Lydia smiled without humor. The Kavresh think they're superior because they have more ships, bigger guns. They've never faced an enemy that fights smart instead of hard. Kael's expression was difficult to read, but his ears had perked forward. A sign of interest, maybe. You would help us reclaim our worlds. I'd help you tear down an empire that thinks it can murder human diplomats without consequences. The fact that it helps your people is a bonus. Lydia extended her hand. Alliance? Kael looked at her hand. Then, carefully, he extended his own massive paw. His claws retracted as they gripped. Alliance. The ship shuddered. Alarms blared. Lydia's comm crackled to life. Commander, we've got contacts dropping out of hyperspace. Kavresh signatures. A lot of them. Lydia and Kael exchanged glances. She keyed her calm. How many? 12 warships. Frigate class and above. They're forming a blockade pattern ahead of us. Time to intercept? 4 hours at current speed. Lydia helped Kael to his feet. The Vornak prince swayed but stayed upright. Can you fight? She asked. Always. Good, because we're about to test this alliance. In the cockpit, Johnson had pulled up tactical displays. The Kavresh formation was textbook perfect. A wall of overlapping fire arcs designed to destroy anything that tried to push through. Lydia studied it with cold calculation. They want us to turn back, she said. Run for Earth space, which would take us away from the sanctuary, Kael growled, and give them time to bring more ships. Exactly. Lydia traced a finger across the star map. So we don't run. We go through them. Marcus looked at her like she'd lost her mind. Commander, we're 1 light cruiser against 12 warships. 13, Johnson corrected, highlighting a new contact. Flagship just arrived. That's the Emperor's personal dreadnought. The blood of conquest. Lydia had seen its specs. Enough firepower to level a planet. The Emperor himself was here. This wasn't just a hunt anymore. It was personal. He wants to make an example of us, Kael said quietly. Show the galaxy what happens to those who defy him. Lydia smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. Then let's give him a show he'll never forget. Johnson set course directly for their center. Maximum acceleration. That's suicide. It's surprise. They expect us to be smart, tactical. Try to find a weakness in their formation. Lydia's fingers flew over the weapons console. So we're going to be stupid and aggressive instead. Kael, can Vornak see in multiple spectrums? Yes. Thermal. Electromagnetic. Why? Because I need you to watch for heat signatures while I manage weapons. There's going to be a weak point in their power distribution when they charge their main guns. It'll only last seconds. You plan to destroy a dreadnought by shooting one specific point? I plan to punch a hole in it and fly through before they can react. For the first time since Lydia had freed him, Kael showed his teeth in what might have been a grin. You are insane. I'm human. There's a difference. She looked at her crew. Everyone strap in. This is going to get rough. The ship accelerated. On the displays, the Kavresh formation began adjusting, confused. They'd expected evasion. Instead, Lydia's ship was heading straight down their throats. They're hailing us, Johnson said. Ignore it. Weapons charging. All ships. Good. Let them commit their power. Lydia watched the distance tick down. 300,000 kilometers. 200,000. Her hands stayed steady on the controls even as her heart hammered. The Kavresh opened fire. Space lit up with plasma and missiles. Johnson wove through the barrage with desperate skill. Shields flared with each near miss. Shields at 40%. 30. Hold course, Lydia shouted over the alarms. Kael's eyes were locked on the enemy dreadnought. Watching through spectrums Lydia couldn't see. There, he barked. Port side. Grid section 7. The power signature just dropped. Lydia didn't hesitate. She fired every weapon they had at that exact point. Missiles, plasma cannons, kinetic rounds, everything. The dreadnought shields flickered. For just an instant, they failed. Punch it! Lydia screamed. Johnson slammed the throttle. The ship shot forward like a bullet. They passed so close to the dreadnought's hull that Lydia could see individual armor plates. Then they were through, past the formation, into open space beyond. Jump drive, Lydia ordered. Pooling. The Kavresh fleet scrambled to turn around. Too slow. Space twisted. They jumped. When the stars stopped spinning, they were alone. Silent, except for damaged systems and heavy breathing. Johnson let out a shaky laugh. We're alive. How are we alive? Because we did something impossible, Lydia said. She looked at Kael. You ready for more impossibilities? The Vornak prince nodded slowly. Lead the way, human commander. 2 days later, they reached the coordinates Kael provided. A dead system. Nothing but an ancient red giant in a debris field from some long-ago catastrophe. Lydia scanned everything 3 times and found nothing. "Are you certain?" she asked Kael. "Positive. The sanctuary is here, hidden in the asteroid field." He closed his eyes, concentrating. "Follow my direction." For the next hour, Kael guided them through the debris with supernatural precision. Finally, they arrived at an asteroid no different from thousands of others. Except when they got close, a section of rock slid away to reveal a massive metal door. "I'll need to go aboard," Kael said. "The security systems will only respond to royal blood." Lydia suited up and accompanied him in a shuttle. The door opened to their approach, revealing a tunnel carved through the asteroid's core. At the end was a chamber that took Lydia's breath away. Stasis pods, thousands upon thousands of them, arranged in perfect rows that stretched into darkness. Each one held a Vornak warrior in suspended animation, silent, waiting. Kael walked to a central console and placed his hand on it. Lights flickered to life throughout the chamber. A holographic display appeared, showing system status, all green. "They sleep," Kael said softly. "My people, my warriors, 7 years in darkness." He looked at Lydia. "Are you ready for what comes next? Once I wake them, there is no going back. The Kavresh will know. They will come with everything they have. Let them come." Lydia checked her sidearm. "We'll be ready." Kael initiated the awakening sequence. Throughout the chamber, pods began opening with hisses of released pressure. Vornak warriors stirred, confused at first. Then they saw their prince standing before them, and everything changed. Within hours, the sanctuary was fully operational. Vornak soldiers moved with military precision despite their long sleep. They listened as Kael explained what had happened. 7 years lost, their worlds conquered, their people enslaved. And this human commander who had freed their prince and brought him home. Not everyone trusted Lydia. She saw it in their eyes. Suspicion, old prejudices. Humans had never been friends to the Vornak. But Kael vouched for her and his word carried weight. "We need weapons," the head of Kael's personal guard said, a scarred female named Vera. "Our stockpiles are limited." "My ship has fabrication systems," Lydia offered. "We can adapt them to Vornak specifications. It won't be quick, but it'll work." "The Kavresh will not give us time to prepare," another warrior argued. "They will attack within days." "Good," Lydia said. Everyone turned to look at her. "I want them to attack. I want them confident. Overwhelming force against a desperate enemy. That's when they'll make mistakes." She pulled up a holographic tactical display. The Kavresh fight by the book. They use their numerical superiority to crush resistance through direct assault. They've done it 100 times and it's never failed, so they'll do it again. "And we will die," Vera growled. "No. We'll use something they've never encountered. Human tactics combined with Vornak combat ability." Lydia began highlighting positions in the asteroid field. Ambush points. Kill zones. "We turn this entire system into a trap. Let them come to us. Let them think they're winning right up until the moment we tear them apart." Kael studied the display. "You would use our ferocity as a scalpel instead of a hammer." "Exactly. The Kavresh expect you to fight with rage. With honor. They've built their entire strategy around breaking that rage. So we don't give them rage. We give them calculation, precision. Death from angles they never see coming." For the first time, the assembled Vornak warriors looked at her with something other than suspicion. Respect, maybe even hope. "How long do we have?" Kael asked. "Sensors show hyperspace distortions building at the system's edge. My guess? 12 hours. Maybe less. Then we have 12 hours to teach your tactics to my warriors. Better make it 10. We need time to set up the trap." The next 10 hours were chaos. Lydia worked alongside Kael, showing the Vornak how to use cover, how to coordinate fire, how to think 3 moves ahead. They were natural predators. Learning to hunt as a pack came easily. Learning to hide their strength until the perfect moment was harder. But they learned. God, they learned fast. Lydia set up remote weapon platforms throughout the asteroid field. mines, sensor decoys. Everything she could jury-rig from their limited supplies. The Vornak positioned themselves in carefully calculated positions, waiting. The Kavresh arrived exactly when Lydia predicted. 40 warships this time. The Emperor wasn't taking chances. They swept into the system in perfect formation, weapons hot, scanning for targets. "Hold!" Lydia whispered into the comm from her position aboard her ship, hidden deep in the asteroid field. "Let them commit." The Kavresh fleet spread out, surrounding the coordinates of the sanctuary. Their flagship moved to the center, massive and arrogant. "All ships converge on the asteroid," the Emperor's voice boomed across open channels. "I want the Vornak prince alive. Everyone else dies." The Kavresh formation tightened. Exactly as Lydia had planned. "Now," she said quietly. The asteroid field exploded into violence. Remote weapon platforms fired from a dozen angles. Vornak warriors in vacuum suits leapt from hidden positions onto Kavresh hull plating, tearing through armor with claws designed for exactly that purpose. Mines detonated in cascading chains, fragmenting the enemy formation. The Kavresh fleet reeled. They tried to return fire, but they couldn't shoot without hitting their own ships. Confusion spread through their ranks. "Phase 2. Leah commanded. Her ship and 3 others dropped stealth fields and opened fire at point-blank range. Not at the warships, at their sensor arrays, their communications. Blind and deaf, the Kavresh formation collapsed into chaos. Kael led the final assault. He and 50 Vornak warriors boarded the flagship directly, cutting through bulkheads and defenders with terrifying efficiency. Lydia watched through drone feeds as the prince fought his way to the bridge. The Emperor himself waited there, surrounded by elite guards, confident until the moment Kael burst through the doors. "You should have killed me when you had the chance," Kael growled. The Emperor drew his ceremonial blade. "I will correct that mistake." They fought. But the Emperor was a politician who played at being a warrior. Kael was a warrior who had survived 7 years of hell. It ended quickly. Lydia's voice crackled through Kael's comm. "Don't kill him yet. I need him alive." Kael paused, claws at the Emperor's throat. "Why? Trust me." Minutes later, Lydia was on the flagship's bridge. The Emperor knelt before her, bound and furious. She ignored him and accessed the ship's communication systems. "What are you doing?" Kael asked. "Ending this war." Lydia's fingers flew over controls. "This flagship has direct communication links to every world in the Kavresh Empire, every military installation, every enslaved population." She activated the system, galaxy-wide broadcast. Then she turned to the Emperor. "Tell them," she said simply. "Never." Lydia nodded to Vera. The Vornak warrior stepped forward and displayed a data chip. "We found his personal archives. Every order. Every atrocity. Every lie he told his own people about the glory of the Empire." Understanding dawned in the Emperor's eyes. Horror followed. "You're going to tell every species you've enslaved exactly what you did to them," Lydia said. "Or I'm going to release these files myself. Your choice. Either way, the truth comes out. They will revolt. The Empire will collapse." "It will." Lydia leaned closer. "You built an empire on lies and chains. I'm going to shatter it with truth. So speak, confess, or watch me do it for you." The Emperor's mandibles clicked in impotent rage, but he spoke. For 3 hours, he confessed everything. The conquered worlds listened. The enslaved populations heard their oppressor admit his crimes in his own voice. By the time he finished, revolutions had already begun on a dozen worlds. Lydia cut the transmission. "Detain him. He'll stand trial for his crimes." Kael stared at her with something like awe. "You just destroyed an empire without firing a shot." "No, I gave them the weapon to free themselves. They destroyed the empire." Lydia smiled tiredly. "That's the difference between conquest and liberation." Reports flooded in over the next hours. Kavresh military installations overwhelmed by uprisings. Governors fleeing their posts. The Empire's iron grip breaking in 100 places at once. "What now?" Kael asked. "Now, we help rebuild. Earth brokers peace treaties. Your people reclaim their worlds, and we make damn sure this never happens again. Lydia looked out at the stars. We build something better. Kael stood beside her, two unlikely allies who had claimed victory through courage and cunning. You are a strange human, Lydia Grant. I'll take that as a compliment. It was meant as one. 3 months later, Lydia stood in the grand hall of the Vornak homeworld. Kael had insisted she be present for the coronation. She wore her dress uniform, uncomfortable in the formal setting, but honored to be there. Kael knelt before the ancient throne, as the crown of his ancestors was placed on his head. When he rose, he was no longer a prince. He was king. The assembled Vornak roared their approval. The sound shook the walls. That evening, there was a feast. Lydia sat at the high table next to the new king. Representatives from a dozen formerly enslaved species attended. The mood was celebratory but cautious. There was still so much work to do. The council wants to make you an official military advisor, Kael said quietly. I'm not Vornak, but you think like a warrior and fight like one. My people respect that. He paused. I respect that. I'll think about it. That's not a no. Lydia smiled. No. A messenger approached and whispered something to Kael. His expression darkened. He stood, commanding attention. The hall fell silent. I have just received word from our scouts, Kael announced. The Kavresh remnants are gathering. They plan one final assault to reclaim their empire. Murmurs of fear rippled through the crowd. Kael raised his hand. Let them come. They face not slaves anymore, but free peoples. They face not victims, but warriors. His golden eyes found Lydia's. They face the alliance that brought down an empire in a single strike, and they will learn what we have already proven. He turned back to the assembly. That when humans and Vornak stand together, nothing in this galaxy can break us. The hall erupted in cheers. Lydia stood as well, drawing her sidearm and raising it high. Around her, Vornak warriors raised their claws. Other species raised their weapons. United, ready, unbreakable. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, the Kavresh prepared for war. But here, in this hall, something more powerful than any empire had been forged. Hope, and the warriors to defend it. Lydia Grant had freed a beast and claimed an empire. But more than that, she had proven what humans had always known. That freedom was worth fighting for. That courage could change the galaxy. And that when you gave people the tools to liberate themselves, they became unstoppable. The war would come, but they would be ready. Together.